Hello everyone, I hope we can get started, and today I would like to talk to you about Flutter for front-end developers, or then back again. And let's just get acquainted really quick. I fell in love with software engineering in 2019 and actually developing code ever since. Sorry, I haven't said my name, I think it's obvious. Then now I'm developing scheduling applications for steel plants. Yeah, and do my front-end magic with JavaScript, TypeScript, Vue, and obviously Flutter. And today I would like to talk with you about Flutter and a little bit of React Native, how markup in Flutter is pretty similar with the usual web stuff. About Dart and TypeScript, we'll see how they are similar and what one actually could take out of this experience. And let's start with a short introduction. In a hole in the ground, there lived a front-end developer. One morning, by some curious chance, I was sitting in front of my MacBook, finishing long piece of front-end code. And there, Gandalf came by and said, how about writing some Flutter? And that's how my unexpected journey began. In reality, guys wanted to develop a simple application that basically do what we all love, exchanging some data with the backend and show something in the application itself. And we wanted to develop for two platforms, Android and iOS. And as you probably rightly mentioned, Bilbo was introduced as a burglar in Hobbit, but wasn't one, and me obviously not a Flutter developer. However, during the work there, I matched 320 story points, released 20 versions of the application, and bumped Flutter version from 1.12 to 3.10. On the front-end side, I basically did nothing. 50 story points, some just bugs, nothing released and nothing bumped. However, let's see what it brings to me. And I would like to start with a little bit of comparing Flutter versus React Native. What is Flutter? According to the documentation, it's open source framework developed, of course, by Google. It's for creating beautiful, natively compiled, multi-platform, single applications in a single code base. It has, in the shell, it has three parts, like a layer system. First part is a framework, then engine and embedder. What happens in framework is basically very high level, where we have our widgets, where we do rendering, we have our material and Cupertino libraries to build our interfaces. Then we have engine, it's more low-level implementation that provides us rendering and Dart runtime. And then we have embedder. Embedder responsible for native OS processes, and so that's it. Then what about React Native? As I am front-end developer, why not? React is basically also open source framework developed by Meta. We are writing React components and utilizing native capabilities of the platforms to create Android and iOS applications. And under the hood, it's do something similar. First, we write our React.js code, then it ends up in React 3, then it goes to the C++ side and creating a React shadow tree, and then on the commit phase, that's native screen, and it ends up there. And basically one could say, they are similar. What's the difference between them? Well, and how to differentiate, what to choose. There are lots of plus, minuses, we could discuss this very long, but what happened in our company? There was a bunch of front-end developers, and familiar technology. So, but of course, one doesn't simply choose Flutter. Gathered together our team lead, head of engineering, and some other senior developers, and started to discuss, guys, what we are gonna use. And of course, usual pros and cons, and then our team lead, who was very experienced, throw undeniable argument. There was very bad experience when we started to develop React Native, and one developer just burned out and quit our job. That was amazing, and we decided, well, guys, we are gonna write Flutter. So, and having choose Flutter, how one could actually start shipping features with very low cost and very short time. Well, basically, it's because it's similar. And for example, markup with Flutter. If I want to stylize the text, for example, I would write something like this on the slide, like class hello. I would say font weight 900, 24 pixels, and font family Georgia. And the Flutter, I would do something the same. But with the difference, of course, that we utilize classes. So I'll define the instance of a class text with the same hello world and just utilize the attribute called style with text style in class instance. And it will be, again, font family, Georgia, font size 24, and font weight bold. Okay, nice. Let's go further. Let's speak about something more practical. And of course, our biggest front-end developer pain is to centering a div. So I have a parent component with class numbers and some children components. And of course, I would say display flags, please, and justify contents with the space between them. In Flutter, I would do particularly the same. We have row class and some children with text, and the attribute is pretty similar, space between. And if I go further, there is also space evenly and center, of course. And of course, as a front-end developer, I always think how my UI is responsive. So basically, one of the techniques I would use is media queries. And I want to apply this font for smaller screens. And I would say, okay, media query 924 Georgia, as it were. Then in Flutter, nearly the same, okay, no, not that. But we define again media query, but it will be just again a class, and use ternary operator to basically say, okay, with smaller screens, I want that type of text. Then our favorite front-end developer tool is, of course, our dev tools. And thanks Google and Mozilla and other browsers, we have like awesome developer tools with lots of things going on, like checking the networks, checking the states of the application, and so on. And Flutter is not losing here. We have also awesome instruments to track basically everything that we have in our application. So far, so good. And now we got to the lonely mountain where the smoke lies, the Dart programming language. Let's check out. What is Dart? Dart is, again, open source language that developed, of course, by Google. And it's open source, it's strictly typed, it's object-oriented language that supports just-in-time compilation. So why don't we need any black arrows to conquer it? Because it's very similar to JS. And it shares the same execution flow through our event loop. It utilizes the same first in, first out principle, and again has two queues, microtask queue and task queue, and of course microtask queue has a priority over the task queue. Cool. Let's do our another one, usual stuff. It's basically interacting with all our servers and get data. And of course, we will do using async principles. Yeah, and to get this, we use JS promise in JavaScript. In Flutter, we have the same wrapper around, but called future. And future shares also free state that's uncompleted, completed successfully, and completed with an error. And of course, we retrieve the value from the future using the same async await syntax. Let's go further. Of course, it's very hard to develop without types. And Dart has its own types, yes, of course, because it's strictly typed. But what about JavaScript? We use TypeScript as a layer above to provide our type system. So in TypeScript, we have numbers, strings, booleans. We could say, okay, there is no value with none. And we say any, sometimes, yes. Then Dart has the same types with a bit smell of Java, but okay. They have ints, strings, booleans. We could say, okay, the values could be null, and of course, dynamic for any. We have collections and functions in TypeScript. We could type our variables like strings, list of strings, or arrays. Then we have objects like with key value pairs. We have functions. We could type the functions. We could type the parameters. And we have arrow functions for more readability sometimes. And Dart is not an exception here. We have also a list. We could define lists of strings. Then we have maps for key value pairs. And we have functions, also returning types and parameter types and arrow functions. Pretty the same. So let's go further. We could utilize classes in JavaScript and type them with TypeScript. We could implement class and implement interface. Okay, cool. We have constructors, we have our class methods, and so on. With Dart, again, with a bit smell of Java, we have, instead of interfaces, we have abstract classes. We implement classes with this abstract class and do basically everything the same. And of course, we have in TypeScript, we have generics, how to survive without them. And in Dart, we have generics too. So far, so good. Like, probably that's how one would expect from this talk, that it's basically pretty easy. And I drew like a rose picture, but how like there is no problems, like at all? Of course not. And I found the problems when creating the app. We had to develop some map functionality. And of course, we took the most famous provider, the SDK provider that we had. But our customer said to us, like, sorry, we have problems with this provider. Please make another one. And yes, no problems. As a usual front-end developer, we just went to the repositories and say, okay, let's find a library. And that's what we found, everything that we found for this map SDK provider. Not very much, I would say. And if one will go down into the repo and check out this library, there would be nothing. Yes. Well, thanks Flutter. It's very robust, and that was the first time I was paid for basically studying. Flutter provides us with Flutter channels that basically allows us to communicate with the underlying platform code, for example, with Kotlin. So we studied Kotlin, we developed our plugin for ourselves, and customers were happy, we were paid. Nice. And of course, after the journey, as Gandalf promised me, I returned not the same hobbit as I were. I basically learned a lot of stuff, starting from deepening in OP principles, solid principles. I even got touched some event-driven library that is used for state management in Flutter, called Block. And just this experience just improved myself as a developer and got cool, unexpected results. And of course, I want like summary to make. I want everybody, if you have this unexpected journey before you, please utilize this ability and just jump in, because it could lead to awesome results in the end. Thank you very much for your attention.